I didn't bring my box today. That's terrible. Well, good morning, everybody. Hope you all had a good weekend. Let me be clear and start off with saying that Democrats didn't just cause inflation. They lit the match, they watched it burn, and then they poured gasoline on the flames. They buried families under regulations, spent trillions on pet projects, and railed against American paychecks to appease who? Their radical base. And Americans will never forget who did that, because we will continue to remind them. During 4 long years of Biden inflation, hardworking families actually did the right thing. They tightened their belts, they canceled vacations, they put groceries back on the conveyor belt, and they drained their savings just to keep the lights on. Because Bidenomics sent energy costs skyrocketing. Under Bidenomics, and in those 4 years, let me just paint the picture for everybody. Home heating oil shot up 44%. Gasoline climbed 48%. Electricity costs went through the roof, rising 29%. And abundant American natural gas rose 27%. Those were under the 4 years during President Biden. That economic punishment crushed the American dream for millions of Americans. But there's actually good news. Thanks to President Trump and Republicans in Congress, the comeback is underway, and America loves a good comeback story. Now, it won't happen overnight. You don't rebuild a burned down home in one day. And after 4 years of economic arson, there's a lot to clean up. But House Republicans are here with the fire extinguisher. We are rebuilding the economy that working families can afford, and so that working families can thrive again. This week, we're laser focused on passing legislation that actually lowers costs. And guess what? It's already working. Gas prices are at a 4-year low. Grocery prices are finally coming down, and wages are actually rising. And next year, Americans will see bigger paychecks because of the Working Families Tax Cut Acts. Remember, the Democrats voted and they wanted to give every single American a pay raise. Every single American, the Democrats voted to raise your taxes. Thank God Republicans voted to not let that happen. Last week, we cut red tape and peeled back Biden's burdensome regulations, and we're doing it again this week. This is all part of an agenda to lower costs and increase paychecks for hardworking families. Real reforms to roll back Washington's overreach and put the power back where it belongs, with the workers, with the families, and with actually the job creators. Government in Washington doesn't need more power. We actually believe that the power lies with the people, unlike the Democrats who want to tell you what to do, when to do it, how to do it. The Democrats believe they are a better steward of your money than you are. We don't believe that. That's why we're putting the power back in your hands. And what are Democrats doing? Again, you think they're going to vote to lower costs? I don't think so. I think the Democrats will vote against giving you bigger paychecks. I think the Democrats will vote against relief for American families. They're fanning the flames of the crisis that they ignited, right? So we will continue our work without them. And watch how they vote. Right? We will continue our work without them, because asking Democrats to fix inflation is like asking an arsonist to join the fire department. This week, we'll vote to lower electricity prices, secure supply chains, and modernize permitting to make energy more affordable again. Because House Republicans are cleaning up Bidenomics, ending Biden inflation, and restoring an America that is strong and respected again. We are restoring an America that is affordable and prosperous again for every single hardworking family. And another piece of important legislation that will be on the floor this week is the NDAA, and I don't think there's anyone better here to talk about it than a Representative Kiggins. So right now, I yield to Representative Kiggins.
Thank you. Well, good morning. I'm Congresswoman Jen Kiggins, and I proudly represent Virginia's 2nd Congressional District. I'm also a Navy veteran, former helicopter pilot, a Navy spouse, and now a proud Navy mom. So it's certainly a privilege to be here today to talk about this year's National Defense Authorization Act, which should see a vote on the floor today. This is over $900 billion of money that we can send to our warfighters and to our military families. There's a large chunk of that's dedicated to ships, submarines, aircraft, the actual warfighting resources and tools that we need to just exemplify peace through strength throughout the world. That part can't be overstated. We've done so much with this administration just to reprioritize peace through strength. That's how we keep peace in the world, is by being that deterrent, by being that strong fighting force, but also taking care of our military families and our men and women in uniform. We did so much good work last Congress with the Quality of Life Task Force, and we continued that work into this year's NDAA. We looked at pay raises. We gave a 3.8% pay raise to our servicemen and women. We looked at housing. We put $1.5 billion back into housing infrastructure improvements. We know that there's a lot of room for improvement there, and I'm thankful that the Secretary of War has prioritized a task force to specifically look at where we are housing our men and women. We looked at child care. We have money specifically dedicated to new child care facilities. We looked at DoD education. We've pressing on DODEA to look at things like no cell phones in schools that are on military installations. There's a lot of money in there for health care that we want to make sure we're providing good health care for our men and women who serve and their families. We put other things in there for licensures to make it easy for providers to be able to serve our military community. And we even looked at things that were making it unifying the accession process, because we heard a lot of challenges with young people who want to serve, that they're being looked at differently for different types of medical history issues. So we changed those things. A lot of meaningful change. One of the things I'm most excited about is how we've prioritized our military Sea Lift Command. In the Navy, you know, we don't have as many ships as we probably should, and we're working on that shipbuilding exercise. But in the meantime, I have my military Sea Lift Command folks who are stepping up, who are civilian partners and providing that peace through strength on the seas. And what we left them out a little bit of the discussion with the quality of life issues. So we included them back this time. We took out pay caps for military Sea Lift Command pay. We made sure that our military Sea Lift Command members could shop at the commissaries and exchanges. We're protecting our commissaries, making sure that they are available and there for our military families. So a lot of good things to take care of the people who serve, but then also that technology integration piece, the contract awarding, the procurement acquisition reform. We've done many, many good things to the tune of over $900 billion. So it's a privilege to have been a part of the team that put that together. It's a mission that we all share here in Congress on both sides of the aisle, of taking care of our military and making sure we remain the greatest in the world. Thank you so much. And with that.
Thank you, Jen. Fraud, fraud, and more fraud. It seems like every day there is a new discovery of stolen taxpayer dollars in my home state of Minnesota. And who is smack dab in the middle of it? The self-acknowledged liar, incompetent, failed governor, and failed vice presidential candidate Tim Walz. But with the world now watching, Walz can no longer hide from accountability. I want to thank President Trump and his all-star administration for pursuing justice for the hardworking taxpayers of my state of Minnesota. Secretary Noem, Secretary Bessent, Secretary Duffy, FBI Director Patel, Administrator Loeffler, Dr. Oz, Stephen Miller, Border Czar Tom Homan, and even more in the Trump administration have sounded the alarm and taken action finally. On behalf of the people of Minnesota, thank you. In addition to exposing and eliminating rampant waste, fraud, and abuse, President Trump and House Republicans are delivering on our promise to restore affordability and opportunity for the American people. With legislation to streamline permitting, unleash American energy, and increase opportunities for Americans to invest in their futures, we're working to lower costs, support American jobs, and spur business innovation. In particular, the nonpartisan INVEST Act, led by Congresswoman Ann Wagner, is going to cut bureaucratic red tape. It's going to empower small businesses in this country and entrepreneurs and give Americans more freedom to invest, build wealth, and save for the future. This will be another great week for America First Wins. And with that, I yield to our leader.
Thank you, Whip, and really appreciate the work that the Whip has done to remind everybody about the fraud that was going on in Minnesota for years. It's finally getting, I think, more coverage, not as much as it deserves, but alarming that so much of that was going on right under the nose of Governor Walz and the brutal waste of taxpayer dollars. We're going to continue, as President Trump is this week, to focus on affordability and lowering costs. You saw President Trump go to Pennsylvania yesterday to talk about a number of the things he's been working on in his administration and working with Congress to lower costs for families. But it's important to remind people what he inherited and what was going on in this country under the Biden administration for 4 years, when you saw prices skyrocketing, energy costs skyrocketing, interest rates skyrocketing, and Democrats in Congress never cared about any of that. They let it happen. They looked the other way over and over again. An open, porous southern border that President Trump not only said he would fix as a candidate, but now has fixed as president of the United States. And when he talks about the things that he's doing to lower inflation, we're finally seeing some relief. But we're going to continue working to lower costs for families. And it's something that is not only important to President Trump, it's important to this House majority. You know, we talked a lot about health care in these last few weeks here at this podium, but our committees have been working on very serious proposals, all focused on lowering costs for 100% of American families. While Democrats talk about less than 10% of the American people, we have been talking about what we can do to lower health premiums for 100% of American families, while also giving options to people who are trapped in unaffordable Care Act plans. Where Democrats want to keep them trapped, we want to give them options. And so we've been working and meeting with different caucuses within our conference for weeks. The committee chairs have been talking about the very specific bills. We've been meeting and getting ideas from a lot of our members who have great, passionate ideas on health care. The Doctors Caucus, doctors who practiced medicine in the private sector and then they came to Congress. They still have great ideas about how to restore the doctor-patient relationship that Obamacare broke. So many things about health care that the Affordable Care Act just destroyed, starting with the title of the bill. Nothing is affordable about the Affordable Care Act, and Republicans want to fix that. And so what we did today in our conference just a little while ago is had a really productive discussion about all those ideas that the committees have been working on, not just ideas, actual bills. And we are now focused on bringing a number of those bills to the floor next week that we have consensus on. There are still some areas that we don't have full agreement upon, and we're going to keep working on those. And we've committed to work on those early in the next year, but starting next week, voting in the House on bills that will focus on lowering premiums for 100% of Americans. Let's see where Democrats stand when it's not just giving money to insurance companies and propping up failed Obamacare plans, but actually helping 100% of Americans have better choices and lower health care premiums. So we're going to continue bringing bills to the floor that work on fixing problems that Democrats have created and delivering on the promises we made to the American people. And our champion, who is our lead person who is helping unify this very narrow Republican majority, but very effective Republican majority, is our Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson.
Thank you. Good morning. Our majority is narrow, but we were happy to add a new member. This past week, and we've administered the oath now to Representative Matt Van Epps of Tennessee. You're really going to love him. He's a combat veteran and a dedicated husband and father, a very effective state official from Tennessee, and now he will be representing the folks of Nashville and 14 counties here, and we've added him to his committees this morning formally and officially, so he is hit the ground running. There is a lot going on here. We wanted to talk with you about some of those things this morning, and I'm so grateful for this leadership team for giving you the report so far, and for Representative Kiggins, who is an extraordinary member of Congress, as you know, a decorated veteran and somebody who's so committed to our nation's defense and our military servicemen and women, and her expertise and all these things has been so greatly appreciated. We're glad to have her this morning. Now, look, we've had one of the most consequential, most productive, most successful Congresses in the history of this institution, the 119th Congress. In spite of those small margins, the Republican majority has been working in lockstep with the Republican majority in the Senate, even though that one's small as well, and of course with our strong Republican president and his administration. And the results of that cannot be questioned. And I see this false narrative right now, oh, they haven't done enough. Oh, pray tell. Listen, the Working Families Tax Cut, the big, beautiful bill, took about 6 months of the first part of this Congress to put together because it was so consequential and so comprehensive. And there are so many things in that bill that our members are going to be so excited to go and run on and talk about in the upcoming election cycle, because we inherited an absolute disaster from the Biden administration. Virtually every area of public policy was decimated, and we had to rebuild from the ground up in many of these places and make all sorts of changes and reforms to get America back again. And we did. And we put it all in this one landmark piece of legislation that will have consequences for generations, and it will be seen and written by history to be one of the biggest things that the Congress has ever achieved. And among those things was an approach to beginning this affordability agenda, because remember, we inherited massive inflation from the previous administration. It's no secret affordability is a flashpoint, right, in recent weeks, and we had 4 catastrophic years of Bidenomics that we inherited. The Biden administration spent like drunken sailors, and they attempted to tax and regulate their way to prosperity, and we all knew when they were doing it that it would not work. It had exactly the opposite effect. The result was inflation skyrocketed, gas prices reached record highs, homeownership declined, credit card debt increased, all those things that everybody felt and they're still feeling now. Now, the American people gave us a mandate in the election. The president won the Electoral College soundly. He won a big majority popular vote. We got the highest vote total for House Republicans in the history of this institution, and they charged us to go fix this. We began that process with the big, beautiful bill, and we have never let up on the accelerator. We keep it going day by day, week by week, notching away at this, trying to fix everything that the previous team broke. And now I wish we could flip a switch right after the election and make it all go away, make it all right. But you know that's not how the economy works. It takes some time to implement new policies and root out the bad things, and that's what's happening. It is a fact that the Biden administration and their Democrat enablers in Congress, we cannot forget, wrecked the U.S. economy. That's what happened, and we had to take it over in January. This is why Democrats' newfound claims about affordability are just patently absurd. Okay, here are the facts, and you know this. Many of you don't write about it, but these are the facts, and they're undisputed. They broke the economy, and now they want to lecture to the American people about affordability. They opened our borders, and now they want to lecture to the American people about immigration border enforcement. They broke the American health care system. They caused premiums to skyrocket, and now they have the audacity to tell Republicans that the only way to save it is to throw hundreds of billions of dollars to health insurance companies, which would merely fuel a system that is rife with fraud, waste, and abuse. You cannot be an arsonist and a firefighter at the same time. That's the message for the Democrats. Let's be very clear about one thing. When the Democrats talk about health care affordability, okay, this catchphrase that they have, they are talking about one thing and one thing only. They are talking about continuing handouts to big insurance companies. They have no ideas, they have no desire to fix the broken system they created. They just want to subsidize it. And subsidy is a big word. It means they're taking taxpayer dollars and funding a broken system. That is their entire affordability agenda in a nutshell. This agenda does not lower health care costs. All it does is hide the cost of the failed law, which we assume is the point. And their proposal which is a 3-year extension of these enhanced subsidies, the Democrat COVID subsidies that they created, that they put the expiration date on for this December. That proposal to extend that for 3 years is devoid of any reforms to clamp down on the rampant waste, fraud, and abuse. And it continues to provide taxpayer-subsidized health care to Americans who are making hundreds of thousands of dollars in annual salary. It doesn't make any sense. Now, you heard Whip Emmer and Leader Scalise reference the massive fraud that's just been uncovered in the last week or so in Minnesota. We know that this has been going on around the country in these deep blue states, and now the evidence is starting to come forward. It's staggering. It should upset. It should anger every American that this is where their dollars are being wasted and abused. A new report by the Government Accountability Office, which I haven't seen too much written about yet, you should look into that. It is an eye-opener as well. It makes clear why it would be a dereliction of duty to just extend subsidies without massive reforms to them, okay? Over the last 2 years, this is investigators at the Government Accountability Office, okay? They submitted 24 fraudulent applications for the ACA subsidies, the Unaffordable Care Act subsidies, Obamacare, okay? Of the 24 fraudulent applications that they created intentionally to just see what would happen, 23 of them were approved. These applications were completely fraudulent. The investigators did not submit any Social Security numbers, citizenship documentation, or reported income documents. And 23 of the 24 applications were still approved. 18 of those, by the way, are still receiving coverages they were as of September of this year. That means the Obamacare exchange and insurers didn't verify any of the information that they were supposed to under the law, and they proceeded to pay tens of thousands of dollars to insurance companies for people who do not exist, okay? The GAO report also found that 29,000 Social Security numbers in 2023 and 68,000 in 2024 were used to receive more than 1 year's worth of insurance coverage. In other words, multiple people were utilizing the same Social Security numbers to openly defraud the American taxpayers. The GAO also found that more than $94 million was sent to insurers on behalf of dead people, okay? This is the system that Democrats in Congress want to extend without reform. It's unbelievable. Listen, these are undisputed facts. The Democrats broke America's healthcare system when they gave us the Unaffordable Care Act, Obamacare, 15 years ago. Remember all the promises? Some of y'all were here. The average premium and the average family is going to go down to $2,500 a year. You're going to be able to keep your doctor. You're going to love this system. None of that was true. In fact, it's the opposite. And premiums have risen because they broke the system dramatically over that time. In some areas, as much as 70%, in some over 90%. And those things are still on a trajectory to rise further. Now, what are we going to do about that? The Democrats had a chance to vote to make life more affordable earlier this year in the Working Families Tax Cut, the big, beautiful bill, and they blew it. The House version of the bill, you may remember, included cost-sharing reductions. We passed that out of the House, we sent it to the Senate, and what that would have done is would have lowered premiums for the average American family by over 12%. Democrats fought to strip that out of the bill. Every American watching today should remember that. The Democrats had a chance to actually lower your premium 6 months ago, but they refused because they wanted to keep health care as a political football. They do not want a solution. They want an issue. That's what this is about. They use the American taxpayers, they admitted themselves during the longest shutdown in U.S. history a few weeks back, as leverage in this cynical political game. So in the coming days, what you're going to see is the other party, the Republican Party, continuing to do the important work that we've already begun to actually lower the cost of health care and reduce fraud, and we hope Democrats will join us in those efforts. There are two parties in this town. One has no intention and no plan and no desire to lower your health care costs. They really haven't put any good idea on the table. They just want to subsidize a broken system. Check them on that. The Republican Party, on the other hand, is already demonstrating that we know how to do this. We're not just talking about it, we've done it. In the Working Families Tax Cut, you will remember, in the Medicaid reforms, we went after program integrity. We didn't change the substance of Medicaid, as they've claimed falsely. We went to program integrity. Why? Because we owed that to the American taxpayers. We got ineligible recipients off of Medicaid, and we cut out the fraud, waste, and abuse. And the CBO said they've calculated it saved $185 billion for American taxpayers, and it reduced premiums. We reformed it to strengthen Medicaid. Those same principles are going to guide us in the months, in the weeks, the days and weeks and months forward. As Leader Scalise noted, we have some low-hanging fruit. We have some things that every Republican agrees to. Democrats won't. Remember, they don't actually want to fix this problem. But you're going to see a package come together that will be on the floor next week that will actually reduce premiums for 100% of Americans who are on health insurance, not just the 7%. Remember, the COVID-era subsidy only covers 7% of Americans, and it was passed and extended without any reforms at all. It would only reduce their premiums by 4%. So they're using that as a red herring. The overall system is broken, and we're the ones that are going to fix it. You will see that laid out. Thanks to the good work of Chairman Cole and all of our appropriators, we have our appropriations process that will be going forward as well. We're moving those through the regular order process, and that's the way it's supposed to work. So you'll see many of those going through the process, and we think we can get it all wrapped up by the end of that deadline on January 30th. And you'll see that process continue over the days and weeks ahead as well. I will say this again, this Congress has been the most productive and successful in the modern era, and I think I think you can make an argument, one of the top 5 of all time. You'll have heard me say that. Look at the evidence and the facts. Don't listen to the talking points. This team has delivered with small margins what the American people asked us to do and what we promised we would do. And that work has just begun. It will continue in earnest all the way through the end of this year as we sprint through the end of this calendar year and we start the new session in January. We never take our foot off the gas. So with that, I'll take a few questions.
Speaker Johnson.
Yeah.
Speaker Johnson. Do you intend to advance pro-life provisions in your health care package, such as high amendments for whatever you advance?
Well, look, it's an important principle. The Republicans always stand by the Hyde provisions. It's been a tradition in our law forever. We do believe in the sanctity of human life, and we think it's important that taxpayer dollars not fund abortion. I mean, this is a well-settled principle of ours. So this week, as we go forward, we're gonna do a lot of things on the floor, and we always keep our fundamental principles in mind. Let me tell you just some of these things this week. I mean, some of this has been mentioned, but real substantive things coming to the floor. We passed legislation last week to keep the CCP out of your children's classrooms and to cut costly red tape for small businesses. This week, you're going to have the NDAA on the floor, as Representative Kiggins has talked about, building on historic investments that we included in the Working Families Tax Cut to advance President Trump's Peace Through Strength agenda. By the way, I want to just tell you, before somebody's going to ask about these provisions, this legislation, the NDAA, codifies 15 of President Trump's executive orders, as the leader mentioned, provides a well-deserved pay raise for our troops. It advances the Golden Dome. It revitalizes our defense industrial base. It ends woke ideology at the Pentagon, and it keeps the border secure. And it's the product of months of work by Chairman Rogers and our House Armed Services Committee with Representative Kiggins and all the colleagues there. We thank them for their efforts. And this week, we're also going to have legislation to streamline permitting processes, accelerate permitting approvals, as Chairwoman McClain discussed, strengthen our electric supply chain, and many other things. What you're not going to see, though, is a dreaded Christmas omnibus, right? Because we broke that fever, and I'm so proud of that. For 3 consecutive years, Republicans have avoided the bloated end-of-the-year Christmas omnibus. We've broken that tradition, and we're not turning back. Those are the things you're going to see as we advance our core principles and we stick to the traditions of what we've done for the taxpayers and for the citizens of this country. Yes.
Speaker.
Second row, right here. Class.
After the Gang of 8 briefing that you had yesterday, what makes this video of a second strike on a suspected drug vote different from the other videos the administration has voluntarily released? And do you support all members of your conference being able to see it?
My admission here is I was not in the Gang of 8 briefing yesterday because we were working on the healthcare stuff, and it was timed at exactly the same time as we had our 5 families, all of our caucus meetings, and I told Secretary Hegseth and Secretary Rubio I wouldn't make it, so they're going to meet with me individually, so I have not yet seen that. But I will tell you that they have obviously shown that video to the Gang of 8, and I think members of the House Armed Services Committee and the Senate Armed Services Committee, so you have to ask the question to them, so we'll see. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Second row, yes, sir. Yeah.
Can I get your thoughts on Jasmine Crockett's run for Senate? What does it say about the state of the Democratic Party? And do you feel worried about her chances of winning at all?
I'm absolutely delighted that Jasmine Crockett is running for Senate in Texas. I think it's one of the greatest things that's happened to the Republican Party in a long, long time. She is the face of the Democratic Party. She and Mamdani. Good luck with that. I want her to have the largest, loudest microphone that she can every single day, and we look forward to having that election down there. We are going to elect another Republican senator in Texas. Texas is a red state. The people of Texas are common sense Americans, and what Jasmine is trying to sell will not be purchased by the folks of Texas. That is my prediction. Yes, yes. Thank you. Thanks so much.
Will you be meeting with